I've got one other thing I want to say about it.
Okay.
Is that they've openly stated that they want to kill us.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And you're letting them in.
Okay. Sir, how am I going to go on this? Canada is a country that was built by immigration. Waves of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who had lived here for millennia, the First Nations and the folks here on Treaty 4 land, and built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. And whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, and to create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations upon generations of folks have done here in Canada. And that is what has created this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively inclined towards immigration. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our immigration system. We have a system that over the past decades has done a very good job of not just having people come to Canada, but setting them up for success, helping with integration, helping them thrive in our communities, helping them contribute to growing this country. And we are a country that you can look around any room and see the diversity that has made us strong. And facing a challenge of irregular migration, but what we've seen today with this task force coming together is we are able to ensure the integrity of our immigration system, that every step in the process that applies to immigrants and refugees, whether they arrive on an airplane or cross a border on foot, are put forward in the proper order and with the proper rigor. We are not shortcutting any of the natural steps on immigration. Full security checks are being done. The next steps in terms of the immigration and refugee process are all being followed because this is important. It's an important example for Canadians that our governments can respond together in a collaborative way to challenges that come up. But it's also important to emphasize that if we are a country that is open to immigrants and refugees, it is because Canadians have confidence in the integrity of our immigration and refugee system. And the integrity of that system is being supported and protected and remains in place even with irregular arrivals.
Absent from the Canadian press. Just wondering if yesterday's announcement on temporary student visas is a part of a bigger rethink on our immigration policies. Will there be caps on other temporary visas? Are we going to tie immigration to housing?
One of the things that Canadians understand is that immigration remains an incredible strength and force for Canada and for the Canadian economy. Being able to welcome in people from around the world, particularly at this time of labor shortages, is good for our country and good for the future that we're building together. But we need to make sure that the system is working in the rigorous ways that it always has. That's what gives Canadians confidence about it. Over the past few years, we've seen a massive increase in the number of international students, and that's why we are steadying the numbers for the next 2 years so that we can make sure that international students can fully benefit from their time here in Canada, and that our system is able to manage and handle them in the right ways. This is part of what a responsible government must do to ensure immigration continues to function smoothly and Canadians continue to support it.
Proof this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost is that he picked the most incompetent immigration minister in Canadian history and put him in charge of housing. The guy who lost track of 1 million people who's blamed by his fellow cabinet colleagues for causing the housing crisis, and who presides over the most expensive housing market in Canadian history. When I was minister, the average rent was $950, and we built hundreds of thousands of units at that affordable price. So why won't he learn from our smashing success in 2015 in keeping costs low by axing the tax and building the home?
Now, at the time, they expressed opposition to our plan to welcome 40,000 Afghan refugees who fought alongside the Canadian Armed Forces. They seem still to have problems with the fact that we opened our doors to vulnerable Ukrainians. But let's actually focus on the housing issue right now, Mr. Speaker. He talks a big game about housing, but he plans to raise taxes.